if you read some of the vagus nerve literature, and there's lots and lots of studies that come out every week on lots of different things relating to vagus nerve stimulation and different aspects of health and stuff. What almost none of those studies talk about is the sympathetic chain, right? So I think that a more correct way, at least clinically, as far as like helping people's health goes, is if you're going to think about the vagus nerve, if you want to do the best job you can for your patients, you also have to think about the sympathetic chain, because the sympathetic chain is basically as close to the opposite of the vagus nerve as we can. The vagus nerve innervates basically all the organs. The sympathetic chain also basically innervates all the organs, right? If you guys, we got the little plexuses that come off the sympathetic chain, the solar plexus that goes to the heart, the hypogastric plexuses that go to the pelvic area, right? Those are basically our individual sympathetic organ innervation systems that are coming off the sympathetic chain. Then the vagus nerve is providing the opposite side of the parasympathetic innervation. And then there's obviously other nerves and stuff that are involved, but that's the primary thing. There's the stellate ganglion, or the star ganglion. Let me tell you guys a couple more things about that, because that's a pretty cool one. There's some neat new studies that I've read about psychiatrists that are doing psychotherapy and mental health treatment with people, you guys. And a couple of the studies that I've come across recently are they're doing either some type of injection into the upper trap, like with ultrasound, right? So they can get it right near that ganglion. And they're using different types of stem cells, right? So their mental concept, which I 100% agree with, is they're thinking, okay, people with mental health disorders all have a hyperactive sympathetic autonomic nervous system. If that is true, wouldn't it make sense if we went in before we did the mental treatment with people, if we went in and physically tried to calm down their sympathetic autonomic nervous system? And that's basically the exact philosophy that I have when I talk to psychiatrists and stuff, and try to encourage them to either get somebody or know somebody that they can send their patients to get needling, or if there's somebody in their office that can do it and then wants to do it that way. But so they're having really good results with these studies, you guys. So they're going in, doing injections with stem cells and other things that have a depressing effect on the sympathetic nervous system. Lidocaine is another thing, you guys, that depresses the sympathetic nervous system, right? That's why it makes muscles flaccid. So lidocaine, those cane medications are sodium potassium pump blockers usually. So that's one of the things that they use sometimes. And then they're getting really good results with their mental health. So the same reason that I think they're getting better results with mental health treatment when they're doing that first is that's the same way that I think about the nervous system in general. So, okay, we have that big ganglion there that's right near the head of the first rib, which gets popped out of place all the time on people, right? So that is one thing that can piss off that nerve ganglion, combined with a whole bunch of other muscles. And so I specifically think about when I'm needling and just treating people in general, you guys, okay, with whatever else I'm doing, I need to make sure that I'm at least trying to address how to take tension or stress off of that chain of nerves. Another thing, you guys, one of the reasons that if somebody said, Jason, you can pick one muscle to needle, the reason I would pick the multifidus muscle, or one of the reasons, is because that's the closest muscle to that entire chain, you guys. It sits right on the backside of the vertebrae there. And these little tendrils of the sympathetic chain, you guys, those little tendrils that go back through on every level, those things go right into the multifidus muscle. So there's a really strong correlation between when the multifidus gets hypoxic, nerves need blood just like everything else, you guys. When the multifidus gets hypoxic, I'm this is my thought. I've not seen any literature specifically looking at this, you guys, so just FYI. But I think when the multifidus gets hypoxic, that makes that nerve chain hypoxic or aggravated for sure. And then it starts having like this detrimental feedback loop where the multifidus is aggravated, that nerve chain is aggravated. When the multifidus turns off, that leads to a loss of stability of the spine. So then the spine's going to get twisted out of place more, which is going to piss off that sympathetic chain more. And it just like turns into this big nasty cycle of stuff. So getting in there and being able to needle the multifidus throughout the spine, manipulate the joints back to neutral. The psoas major is the other muscle that's closest to the sympathetic chain in the lumbar spine, you guys. So those are all things I think about when I'm needling people and when I'm doing manipulation and stuff. So again, there's that whole chain, you guys. And this is what I was trying to mention before, is that I think this picture makes it easy to see. If you just think, okay, where that red arrow is, if you just twisted those vertebrae out of place, that chain is sitting right on the vertebrae. So if you have vertebrae that are normally sitting like this, and that chain is sitting right on the front side of it there, and you twist that thing out of place, that chain is going to get pulled on somehow. That's going to stimulate it, right? So that is one of the primary things that I think people need to think about if we're thinking about regulating the autonomic nervous system and needling the vagus nerve and stuff like that. Needling muscles around this chain, you guys, has the overall effect of calming it down a lot, right? Even though needling initially has that initial sympathetic stimulus, right? The overall effect of needling tissues, pathologic tissues, anywhere in the body and around that sympathetic chain is the tissues depress sympathetic activity, which means they get more neutral or elevate the parasympathetic activity. So, yeah, those are all the things I think about for that. I added in some of this stuff, you guys, so you don't forget. This is what I was talking about with this, like the splanchnic nerves and the different sympathetic and parasympathetic parts of the sympathetic chain, right? So I think that's a helpful picture if you guys want to look at it at some point. We don't need to go over all that. So remember, you guys, other problems that people have from sympathetic nervous system hyperactivity. So the one we've mentioned, or I've mentioned, all the ones that we think about more, right? So pain, hypoxia, muscle dysfunction, sleeping problems, all that stuff, right? Some other things that I think physical therapists should think about that we don't think about enough are things like diabetes and other types of like neurophysiologic problems. So with needling, you guys, again, to go back to the mitochondria, if mitochondria are hypoxic, they cannot process and eat glucose molecules properly, which leads to more glucose ending up in the bloodstream, which is basically what diabetes is, which has all sorts of effects on your insulin and other hormones and all sorts of stuff. So one of the things that I think about, both in terms of targeting the autonomic nervous system specifically, and one of my other kind of philosophies of in general, you want to try to treat as much tissue pathology throughout as much of the body each time you can when you treat people, is every single piece of pathologic tissue you put a needle into is basically taking those mitochondria from hypoxic to oxygen saturated. That gives the mitochondria the ability to start storing glucose and calcium, and the muscles can store calcium and all this stuff better. So not only does it improve like regular symptoms of stuff, it's helping with a lot of other conditions that people may not think would be helpful. Let me tell you, this is a crazy story, guys. So I've got this guy, Henry. He is a physical therapist down in North Carolina, and his wife is a diabetic. I can't remember which type. And he asked me, he said, man, is there anything that we could do that may help improve her blood sugar? He said she doesn't eat very well, and sometimes her blood sugar will spike to like 400 or something, and she had an insulin pump and all this stuff, right? So I said, do me a favor and just try doing vagus nerve stimulation and see what happens, because she had all the things hooked up to her and whatever. So they just started doing ear needling every day, you guys, every night for an hour. And over the course of a month, her A1C went down by a point and a half, which is a lot. And he called me and he was like, "Man, this happened. I don't believe this is like he didn't want to believe that the needling could do that." And I said, "Man, did you guys change anything else?" And he said, "No." So I said, it's the needling. There's literature talking about this. I've seen it happen before on different people." I said, "Isn't that cool?" But if you don't think it is, stop the needling and see what happens. So they stopped the needling, blood sugar, A1C went back up, started needling again, A1C went back down. So that is just that's a big outcome for a simple intervention, you guys, right? Again, instead of us worrying about like, oh, the insulin pathways are broken, or this person's insulin sensitivity is bad, and then giving them a medication like an insulin specific medication or something. If we instead decided to say, okay, we can use those things as symptom management if we need to, but why don't we address the underlying problem? The body is not able to process sugar properly. And one of those fundamental things, you guys, is sympathetic nervous system hyperactive, causes muscles to be hypoxic. And when you get hypoxic muscles, that's where a huge percentage of our mitochondria are, and they just can't work with sugar as well, right? So needling can be used for lots and lots of different things. We talked about this. I mentioned this yesterday, you guys, that public health agencies, right? 90% of Americans are living with, they call it metabolic dysfunction, but that sympathetic hyperactivity, right? So that means that just per that study, that 90% of the US population desperately needs treatment like this to regulate their nervous system. One of the things, you guys, sometimes that people ask me is like, aside from acute injuries or acute problems, do you have people that like just come to you on a somewhat regular basis just to like more or less have their nervous system reset, or however you want to think about it? And yeah, that 100% for sure. Like that was always one of the surprising things to me when I first started needling patients, is how like addicted to the needling a lot of people get. And what those people like about it is the feeling of a more homeostatic nervous system. Like however they describe it to you, that is what they, aside from if it's, aside from getting rid of pain and stuff like that, you guys, if they don't have like a specific problem, those lots of people just feel much better when they get needled every once in a while, including me and like most people. And so yeah, that's a great way to have people. You treat them for like acute initial stuff, and then whatever, once a month, once every however long they want to come, like in between, they come back and you can do a treatment, and that just helps maintain their nervous system regulation.